And there it is, rag pudding. That is absolutely phenomenal. There we go. Hi everyone, welcome to Backyard Chef. I'm Rick. Today we are going back in time, 19th century cooking. We're making the rag pudding. This came around somewhere around about the Industrial Revolution, all up the Lancashire side of the UK, but obviously spread everywhere else. And it's a traditional form of cooking which is known throughout the UK, cooking in a rag. And up in Scotland it's called a clout. It's a traditional form of either steaming the dish or boiling it. Now we're going to go for the more traditional of chuck it in a pan of boiling water and let it cook for 1.5 hours. So let's show you how to do it right now. So in this bowl I have self-raising flour and I'm going in there with some suet. Now this can be made with lard. For all those people who are going to say, is there a substitute? Yes, you can make it with lard. But suet is traditional. I'm just going to go in there with a little bit of salt. And we're going to give it a mix up. We're trying to mix this like we would any pastry into fine breadcrumbs. So it's just a case of lift and rub between your hands until all that suet is incorporated into that flour. Okay, that's looking good enough. That looks really good actually. So we just need to go in there with a little bit of water. Now we don't want much water, and this is where you eyeball all this type of recipe. So what we're doing is trying to bring it together. We do not want a soggy pastry on this. We want it to be a little bit firm, but not over firm. So I think that might have it there. So we're going to get our hand in and give it a mix and see. See if we can bring it together. If it's too dry, we'll add a little bit more water. But we don't want to go down the lines of making it too wet and then adding flour, then more water, then more flour. You will end up working the dough too much. So nice and gently get it in there. And this is crumbly, too crumbly. So we do want a little bit more, but we have to be careful now. I'll do it. I think that's good enough. I'm going to do 4 portions with this, 4 small portions. So we really need to be weighing it, work it out. I've got 450 grams of beef there. So that's going to be about 112 grams of beef mix. So we need to just divide this into 4 portions. Now we can eyeball it or we can do it by weight. Okay, what have we got in here? We've got 504. 504 divided by 4 is 126. So that's going to be about 126. Okay, so let's start with half in it, and then we'll start by quartering it, and then we might have to add some. So we want about 126. That's 130, so we're going to take a little bit off there. That's 126, that's one. That's 124. There we go. That's 4 lots of pastry that we need. Now we can roll it all out if you want, or we can just squash it out with our hands. That choice is yours. So we have our pastry. We'll just put there a second whilst we mix our beef. Now I am going to put a glove on for this, but you don't have to. It's entirely up to you. In fact, you don't even really have to mix it that well. You just have to stir a little bit of mix in. That's my beef. That's my onion. Quite a lot of onion actually. I'm going to season this. Quite a bit of pepper, because there's no seasoning going in here. A little bit of salt, and I'm going in there with a good pinch of dried thyme. Thyme would have been used back in the day, and probably parsley or anything like that. So all we need to do is we need to give this a good mix in. So let's have that all fully incorporated in there, and we're going to give it a little minute when it's mixed, because these onions are going to soften a little bit with that salt in there. Now you don't have to give it a minute. You just mix up your mix, divide it into 4 and shove it in your pastry. Now this type of recipe is open to any flavours that you want to put in there. If you want to go a bit of Worcester sauce, anything like that. Now Worcester sauce did creep in those later days, but I would imagine way back when this was first thought of in a way of cooking, because don't forget, cooking with cloths and boiling has been around for centuries. I would imagine Worcester sauce wasn't in, but it is a nice flavouring agent. So now I've talked myself into it, we're going to go with just a little tad, not much, so that's completely optional, but I've talked myself into that. Now the addition that I am going to add to this would be the traditional type mix that would go in that cloth for cooking. This is a really thick bit of gravy, not much. I just want a little bit of gravy in there, make it a little bit moist. We're not going to go too much, because the fluid and that inside the meat and the onions is going to moisten everything anyway. But this is my modern day twist on this, just to put that little bit of moisture in there and a little bit of gravy. That will definitely make it more appealing to eat. But back in the day, they might not have done this. They might not have put any gravy of any sort in here. They would have just cooked the mince. So there's our mix. To one side, we need to do our pastry. So our pastry then is going to go inside a cloth, and we are going to put some flour on that cloth like you would with a Scottish clute when you're making cluty pudding. So we are going to put a little bit of flour on there. Now we aren't going crazy with the rolling, we just want to roll it out a little bit. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, don't be fooled. So we're going to start with that. We'll do all 4 and then we'll split the mix, and then we'll see if we have to go a little bit more on the pastry. Okay, there we go. Now, this cloth is wet. Okay, the old-fashioned way of cooking, when we cook like this, we have to flour that cloth. So we need some flour on there. Now this forms a skin, so it doesn't really matter if you put quite a bit on or a little bit. It's up to you actually. So we're going to go a good amount of flour on there. We learnt this from making the clooties. And then we're going to take one of our doughs, put it on every one. Now this is traditional cooking at best. And then we're going to take some of our mixture, we're going to bob it in there. So there's quite a bit of mix in all our mix there. And all we have to do is we are going to actually bring this like this. And we're going to screw it up a little bit. Not much, we're just going to bring it up like that. Make sure that the top of this has flour on. Bring up. And then all you do is tie it off. Tie it off the best you can. So we're making a little parcel. That is easy as that, to one side. So just bring up your pastry and we are going to just join it together like we did on that other one. Just nice and steady at the top like that. Don't have to make it too tight. Don't go bananas. And a little bit of flour on the top so it seals up that skin on when it cooks in the boiling water. Bring up the sides. And then we just tie it off. Bit of string all the way around there. And just carry on. Okay, when you've got your pan up to boiling, in we go. You have to make sure that you have enough water over the top of your puddings. They have to be submerged. So what I'm going to do, I've got one of these trivets, and that, hopefully, is going to keep those in there. And then we're going to stick a lid on, and we're going to bring this back up to the boil, and we're going to simmer it, not a full boil, just a simmer for 1.5 hours. Okay, flame off. That's been boiling away for about 1.5 hours. That is fine. Get our weighted bit off of there. Get our parcels out. They actually smell really, really good. There is our rag puddings made. All we got to do now is give one an opening. We need to open one up and see what they look like, and then we can give it a taste test. So what does it look like? It looks red hot. And there it is, rag pudding. Now, if I was going to actually cook this in a restaurant, to make this look really appealing, we would do the same as we did with the clootie dumpling. We'd actually put that in the oven, cook it for about 10 minutes So it firms up, darkens up the outside suet, and you have a suet crust on there, which would make like a crusty pudding. However, the old-fashioned recipes back in the day, they didn't have an oven to crisp it up. So that would have been served like that with vegetables or something on your plate. So all we're going to do is crack that open and we're going to see what it's like inside. That is absolutely phenomenal. There we go. You know what this reminds me of is a salad bowl in Asia. You know, you would have the white pastry around there and you have the pork and that on the inside. This is very reminiscent of that. It just shows how cultures and things have similarities. This looks superb. I'm going to give it a try. So here we go then. What does it taste like? Oh, in here. Oh, that's hot. That is absolutely delicious. That really is. You know, these old recipes are fantastic. Is really, really nice. The mince is cooked beautifully in there. It's moist, it's tasty with the thyme. That really is good. Well, that is rag pudding made. If you like what we're doing, don't forget, smash that like and subscribe, share with your friends, all that kind of stuff. We'll catch you in the next video.